welcome to the Retro Racing Managers League's Grand Prix 2 World Championship. Just 2 races to go in the 1990 World Championship, and so it's fever pitch as far as the racing is concerned. Jake Sanson here with you once again as we prepare for the Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka. Now, of course, we're going to have to start with the pre-qualifying session, and the first 3 teams, as always, across the finish line will progress through to the Grand Prix. There have been some changes coming into this weekend. The most dramatic of those is that the Williams team have elected to promote their test driver, Michael Schumacher, into a race role for the last 2 races of the season. Now, that is obviously demoting Thierry Boutsen of Belgium, and the Williams team have elected to do this to strengthen their chances in the Constructors' Championship now that their Belgian star Thierry Boutsen is not going to be competing for the world title. Now, he has been demoted to the Porsche factory team in pre-qualifying, which is great news in a way for the Belgian, because it does mean that he gets to understand the Porsche engine ahead of next season. It could be dramatic if he gets some results on the board to strengthen the Porsche team's charge with the Williams squad next season. There are a few other changes as well, but those will become apparent as we go through the rankings. So, let us talk our way through this starting grid. It's Marc Blundell in the Osella alongside Thierry Boutsen, who has put the car in second on the grid in the Porsche. Bertrand Gachot and Eric Bernard are together on the second row of the grid, the Coloni and the Monteverdi. Then Aguri Suzuki and Ukyo Katayama, who will line up as Honda teammates next year. Alessandro Zanardi, the Italian, in the Osella, and Michael Andretti in the Reynard lines up in 8th place ahead of Roland Ratzenberger in his Reynard. Damon Hill has continued on his push in the Dallara. JJ Leto and Paul Warwick are together on the 6th row of the grid. Johnny Herbert and Alan McNish are next up from Bruno Giacomelli and Gabriele Tarquini. Then it's Eddie Irvine in the Real and Roberto Guerrero in the AGS. Martin Brundle struggling in the Minardi and Martin Donnelly in the Eurobrunn. Then Joachim Winkelhock and Volker Wiedler with Pierluigi Martini and Christian Fittipaldi. And then it's Paolo Barilla and Juan Fangio II. So it should be an absolutely fascinating and thrilling Japanese pre-qualifying race, in particular for the man in second position on the starting grid, Thierry Boutsen, lining up in the Porsche to help strengthen the program for next season, and also as a result of him not being in the hunt for the Drivers' Championship. So Boutsen is in contention for the pre-qualifying. What a start, though, as we get away from Zanardi. He's absolutely rocketed away. So Blundell getting a good start. Andretti's got a flyer as well in the Reynard. So Andretti comes through to the front, and that's Bruno Giacomelli with a missing rear wing. So problems for Giacomelli as we go through the first hairpin. And I'm afraid to say that that is a big problem for Giacomelli already. The Lola looking very out of sorts as we head up the hill for the first time through the S's. And Andretti leads the way from Blundell, Boutsen, Katayama, Bernard, Zanardi, Gachot, Hill, Suzuki, Herbert and Leto. So a fabulous start to racing here at Suzuka as Blundell is already trying to make a bid for Andretti. It hasn't worked. That was a bit brave from Marc Blundell, to be honest, trying to make an overtaking move there. But Andretti, having got into the car last minute after Michael Schumacher has been called up to the Williams F1 team in the actual Grand Prix, that is a fascinating draw decision, but Andretti has decided to keep the Reynard team at the front and is pushing hard here. Good work from Michael Andretti. Blundell and Boutsen are next up. Boutsen's going to make his beat on the inside of Blundell. Has to back out of it in the works Porsche. So the car continues on its way, but Andretti leads the way from Blundell, Boutsen, Katayama, Bernard. And then we have Zanardi in 6th position. A good start initially, but he just got held up in the traffic jam as Boutsen is now making his bid on Blundell into the 130R. Can't make it stick. Bernard tried to make the same move on Katayama. He can't get through either. A very tricky race circuit this, as we know, as Michael Andretti continues on his way through. Now, the chicane is not actually being utilised this weekend because it was decided after the controversies of last year's Japanese Grand Prix that we are not going to use the very difficult chicane. So that could make things very entertaining for the rest of the race, particularly for the Grand Prix itself. Andretti, Blundell, Katayama, Boutsen, Bernard, Zanardi, Gachot, Suzuki, Hill and Leto. Then it's Herbert from McNish, Guerrero, Ratzenberger and Warwick. And that's a lock-up for Joachim Winkelhock in the Zach Speed. He keeps himself on the racetrack. Giacomelli obviously into the pit after suffering damage on the first corner. But everybody has been able to keep going despite the dramatic start. So the field continues on its way round. That looked like a move there from Guerrero to try and get past McNish. Oh no, sorry, that was Tarquini trying to have a go at Martin Brundle in the Minardi. Yet again, the Minardi does not seem to be particularly competitive on the fast circuits where there is tight and twisty mechanical grip, such as Jerez. The Minardi is very quick indeed, but here at Suzuka, where it's a lot about horsepower, then unfortunate for them, but the Minardi team are not having the same success. Now, Boutsen has dropped back behind Katayama. So Katayama, the Japanese driver, has got through on Boutsen. Boutsen, of course, is still trying to get used to this car. You can't just expect a driver, even a Williams race winner this year, to jump into a pre-qualifying car and immediately be on the pace. So they're doing their best. That's right on board with Zanardi, because you can see the difference in the course this year. So you can see that the chicane has been completely outlawed. And they're going straight through round on a fast right-hander, which will definitely make overtaking opportunities much more interesting. Through to the first corner as Boutsen again tries to get back past Katayama, and he can't make it stick. So here's Fittipaldi in the life a little further back, and he's trying to close in on Pierluigi Martini in the Minardi. We're on lap 3 of 27, and already a very fast start to proceedings here in the Go Bobbitt UK Cup, which is the race before the Grand Prix, and it's to determine which 3 teams will cross the line first in this half-distance race and will progress through to the Japanese Grand Prix of 1990, where we've got an amazing 8-way title fight for the last 2 races of the year. It is going to be absolutely sensational. So Andretti leads Blundell. So Michael Andretti out in the lead in the Reynard, but Marc Blundell in the Lego Acela is catching him. And that's Bertrand Gachot going through the Casio hairpin, trying to work his way forward as he closes in, or tries to close in, on his teammate Ukko Katayama on home soil. Then Thierry Boutsen and Eric Bernard. Gachot, Zanardi, Suzuki, Leto and Hill is the order further back. Then Johnny Herbert in the second Dallara. Guerrero's doing well in 12th place in the AGS. Then Ratzenberger in the Reynard down to 13th after a difficult start. Then McNish, Paul Warwick in the second Porsche. And then it is Eddie Irvine in the Real from Martin Donnelly in the Eurobrun. A very fast corner this as Thierry Boutsen has a look to try and get by for third position, but Katayama makes it impossible to get through. But Thierry Boutsen has another crack at the Japanese driver into the first corner. This is going to need to be a bold move. Oh, we've got a big incident further back. Oh my goodness. That is a big shunt. I've never seen an accident that big in the RRML, and it's going to cause a few other problems, I do believe. A couple of other drivers in the mix. We need to have a look at this and go back and have another look. This is Bertrand Gachot. There's an engine failure in front of him. It's Eric Bernard. And that's the moment that Bernard chooses to turn across on Gachot. Oh my goodness me. What an accident. That is a big one in anybody's language. And, well, it looks like one of the AGSs has had to slow right down. The car's coming to a stop pretty much on the edge there. Let's have a look again from Bernard's car as we suddenly see Gachot and Bernard just a completely... Well, I'm not entirely sure what Bernard thought he was doing there, actually, because that was a very... He needed to keep an eye on what was going on behind him, and I suppose the smoke made it impossible to see what was going on. But, yeah, big shunt here at Suzuka, and that's going to take a bit of unravelling. But Bertrand Gachot, of course, is out of the race. Eric Bernard was having an engine failure, and Blue on the straight. And here you go, look, he just moves across on Bertrand Gachot, who goes up in the air. He's very lucky, actually, is Bertrand Gachot, because the car could have gone straight into the crowd. And that would have been a very nasty incident indeed. And I think we've got several cars in trouble here, as a couple of them are trying to get out of the way. The cars on the main straight have had to pretty much come to a standstill to allow the wreckage to happen. But now they have got going again. And I can tell you it is just those 2 cars that are out of the race, Gachot and Bernard. What it has done is it's actually given Giacomelli a bit of a catch-up job. So, although Giacomelli is still quite a long way back, we're going to have to look into that incident between Gachot and Bernard. But, obviously, that is a big one. We'll just have to continue the race, and we'll see how things transpire. But a very nasty moment indeed there in the pre-qualifying race of the Japanese Grand Prix. And that's Leto. Oh, Leto going wide. And I'm afraid it's double trouble for Monteverdi. Now Leto has made a big mistake and run wide. And he's actually damaged the Monteverdi. So he's going to have to come into the pits to repair the car. So a big problem there for the Japanese driver as Damon Hill goes through and takes the place away. So the Monteverdi out in front for a short while with Bernard and Leto near the front. But unfortunately, it doesn't continue that way, as Martin Brundle is now going to try and take on Roberto Guerrero in the AGS. As the battle continues, and into the pits comes JJ Leto in the Monteverde. So he will obviously have to repair that car. Now, I think the Monteverde crew should be able to fill up that car to the brim. And he should be able to finish the race, having taken his one pit stop. Yes, indeed they will. That's exactly what they're going to do. Now, here's Katayama, the homeboy favourite. Alan McNish now we switch to. 14th place in the life as he duels with Eddie Irvine, who knows this place very well. Oh, looks like someone else in trouble in the background. It's Joe Winkelhock, the Yamaha engine, which is competing in its final Japanese Grand Prix for a while. None of the teams will be using Yamaha engines next year, as Joe Winkelhock, unfortunately, with an engine failure. And, oh dear, that's a catastrophic engine failure now, because the car is absolutely on fire as Winkelhock continues on around the circuit. He really should pull the car off, as Winkelhock in the Zach Speed is going to retire from the race. Now, up in the front, Blundell is chasing after Michael Andretti in the Reynard, and still trying to make that ultimate move. Here's Thierry Boutsen in the Porsche, who yet again is trying to take on the Coloni Ferrari of Ukyo Katayama. It's a big lunge, and Boutsen has to back out of it. That was a very scary moment there for the Belgian. And as they tore around the far corner at the end of the straight, Winkelhock, as you can see, is out of the race. He's finally pulled the car off at the hairpin. So that is Joe Winkelhock out of the race after an engine failure. So Michael Andretti still under pressure from Mark Blundell. At this moment in time, it looks like it's going to be Reynard, Lego Osella and Coloni that get through to the Japanese Grand Prix, and that's going to be very good news for Ukyo Katayama. But Blundell is all over the back of Michael Andretti. Can he make the bid as they come off the spoon of the S's? And Blundell's trying again here on Andretti, but it's such a hard circuit to overtake on. So the teams are obviously doing their best to try and get this car set up for this very tricky circuit. But it isn't easy, and it's certainly not the easiest overtaking circuit, as Brundle has another crack at Guerrero and can't make it happen. But we have had some overtaking moves, as Blundell runs very wide there. Actually put a wheel on the grass by the look of it. Manages to keep the car together. You can see the speed difference between the Lego Osella and the Reynard. Renault engines in the Reynard, of course. So the Osella team that are still doing a fine job with the car that they have been given, and they are obviously trying to develop as things go on. But the Lego Osella team, they've been working very hard over the course of the season, as we know. But their Ford engines are doing very well indeed here. They've been developing them right to the end of the season, just to see what they can get out of the Ford engine, essentially. Which is interesting, because the Ford engine itself as a works engine will be actually pulling out of Formula 1 next year, and that's a lovely move on Volker Wiedler. That is Gabriele Tarquini getting his move on the German there. Oh, a big problem for Andretti as he misses his gear shift. I was talking about Ford. They've actually pulled out of Formula 1 unofficially for 1991. Apparently they will return. They are going to make a comeback, and that's Blundell again on Andretti, who again chops across. And the Lego Osella with Ford engines is there in second place still. Now, they're going to continue to provide the Cosworth engine, but it will be a private entity. It's not going to be a factory effort. So Ford are looking to make a comeback at some point in the near future. Now, a lot of people are already speculating how Ford would make a comeback to Formula 1, be that in 1992 or 1993. Would they be a sole engine supplier, or would they run their own team? So that's a big mistake for Andretti. He's got all sorts of gear shift issues by the look of it, because he keeps missing shifts in the lead of the race here. As Katayama runs third, Boutsen fourth, Zanardi fifth, Suzuki in sixth place, Hill in seventh. Now this time Blundell has held back a little bit. Is he going to make the lunge on the inside of Andretti this time? They're side by side through the final turn, and Blundell gets through. Lovely move from the British driver as he moves into the lead of the Go Bobbitt UK Cup qualifier for the Japanese Grand Prix. And that was Blundell, pure commitment as he went through the final bend. See, that's the kind of overtaking move we can have with that final corner. We couldn't have that, I don't think, in quite the same fashion if we had that chicane at the end of the course as normal. Oh, and Donnelly battling it out there. No, sorry, that was Fangio the second battling it out there with Martini and Tarquini. Has Tarquini got a problem? I think Tarquini has got a problem. Yes, electrical issues. That's why Tarquini was dropping back. So Tarquini now having to come into the pits. As here is Fittipaldi. And Fittipaldi's trying to make a move on the inside of Martini's Minardi, and he's got there. So a nice move then from the Brazilian. But Marc Blundell is trying to assert himself now that he is at the front of the field in the Lego Osella, which of course will become the Lego Fondmetal in 1991. So the team name will change, but the colour scheme, I'm told, will not. And it will still very much be a Fondmetal operation, but it will still be the same team with the same crew. Just the name will change. As Fittipaldi remains in front of Pierluigi Martini. Martin Brundle's doing a fine job, actually. He has climbed up from a poor grid position up into 11th place. So Brundle is doing well ahead of Ratzenberger. There's Katayama, Boutsen, Zanardi and Suzuki. So Suzuki's making good progress as well in the top 6 as the Japanese driver. Naturally using the home advantage to try and move his way further forward. This is a great day for the Japanese fans because normally they don't have Japanese drivers at the front of a racing field. But thanks to the new pre-qualifying system, the Go Bobbit UK Cup qualifying race, they can now have a race with their Japanese drivers at the front, and hopefully they can get into a Grand Prix. So that is going to be a wonderful system moving forward, and we're told that it is going to continue into future years. And there will only be spaces on the grid, I'm told, for 23 teams at the very top of the sport, which is a total of 46 race drivers, of course, but then you'll also have the 23 test drivers and the 23 development drivers. So, an interesting battle. Here's Andretti. Around the hairpin. So this is going to be an absolutely fascinating run as Andretti continues to hustle Blundell, but Blundell is pulling away. But then we saw this, didn't we, last time out at Jerez, and Blundell was having the same sort of race where he stretched out a lead in front. Here's Fittipaldi going for Fangio. That time he's not going to make it stick. So the nephews of world champions going to battle, because that was Juan Fangio II, the nephew of the 5 times world champion Juan Manuel Fangio, and the nephew of Emerson Fittipaldi out there, Christian Fittipaldi, having a great battle. There's Michael Andretti in the Reynard. Now, Michael Andretti, we're told, he's going to be primarily focused on an IndyCar program again for last year, but he does seem to have this affinity with Formula One. He keeps coming back for more. He's had a couple of stints in the car this season, and that is McNish getting past Martin Donnelly a little bit further back. Martini's got a run on the Lola. Oh, sorry, no, that's not the Lola, is it? That's the Life. Well, I know for a fact that the Lola is going to take a lot of its cues next year from the Life operation, as team boss Tom Cairns will move there next year. Still only 5.5 seconds between the top 6 cars in pre-qualifying as we reach 1/3 distance in the Go Bobbit UK Cup. And look at this, Katayama is being hustled big time by Boutsen and Zanardi, as they have both now caught Michael Andretti's Reynard. So this could be very interesting in terms of the pit stop strategy, with Porsche with a very genuine chance of getting through to a Grand Prix for what is going to be the 3rd time this season if they make it. And no wonder they decided to put Thierry Boutsen in the car. Williams said, well, Michael Schumacher, we need to assess him. And they decided to reward him after his year with Reynard and put him into the top flight. It's quite a nice little situation as well, because obviously team boss of the Williams team, Topher Smith, is going to Jordan next year with Ferrari engines, so it works out to give Schumacher a little bit of time in the car, as Katayama and Andretti are battling wheel to wheel for 2nd position in this Go Bobbit UK Cup qualifier. And what about Boutsen? Boutsen has now got a run on Andretti. So Thierry Boutsen is surely going to have a go. That's Paolo Barilla. Paolo Barilla in trouble. But what about this battle for 2nd and 3rd place? There's Boutsen. Boutsen gets through into 3rd place in the Porsche, and that displaces Reynard down and out of the top 3 for the moment. So Thierry Boutsen puts the Porsche into 3rd position. So that's crucial as far as qualifying for the Grand Prix is concerned. Thierry Boutsen doing well. That's Juan Fangio II. Problems for him. It's an electrical problem. Now, is he going to be able to get the car back to the pits? Because there is the pit lane. Oh, he has just managed to. So Juan Fangio II, very fortunate there indeed. And here's Boutsen. Third position, but he's got a queue of cars forming behind him. Now, is that because of Andretti or is that because of Boutsen? We'll have to figure it out, but Boutsen is now starting to stretch away a little bit in the Apple-backed Porsche. Giacomelli is into the pits. So Bruno Giacomelli, having already had a long pit stop to repair his rear wing, now finds himself back in the pit lane once again. A big moment for Katayama, though, in second position. And that's Johnny Herbert behind Damon Hill. The two Dallaras are creeping their way back towards the top six. It's going to take a while, but there's Boutsen in front of Andretti. Zanardi tries to look. Zanardi loses ground, and here comes Aguri Suzuki for a go. So Aguri Suzuki, the other Japanese driver in this race, has got a bit of an opportunity here. Oh, he runs too deep. So that's not going to happen for him on this occasion, as Mark Blundell continues to lead in the Lego Osella here at Suzuka. Ratzenberger tries on Brundle, and he's got good speed. Surely he's going to make that work. He does indeed. So Brundle, look how much speed you gain, though, on the slipstream. But the Minardi just doesn't seem to have pure speed in a straight line. But Brundle's going to try again on Ratzenberger. Oh, a good little battle between those two as Roberto Guerrero in the AGS makes his bid. You gain so much time here in the slipstream. That's why we're getting so many cars trying to make the overtaking moves. And we have had some overtakes, but it is tough to get the pass, as Mark Blundell is not far away from lapping Bruno Giacomelli. So that just shows you how difficult a day at the office Giacomelli's having. So Mark Blundell in the Lego Osella continues his race, leading by 4.5 seconds to Ukyo Katayama, with Thierry Boutsen in the Porsche in third place ahead of Michael Andretti's Reynard, Alessandro Zanardi in the Lego Osella, and Aguri Suzuki in the Lola. Then it is Damon Hill and Johnny Herbert in the two Dallaras. Paul Warwick in the Porsche going well in ninth place ahead of Roland Ratzenberger in the second Reynard. Then Martin Brundle in the leading Minardi. Alan McNish in the Life. Donnelly is 13th in the Eurobrunn, and there he is battling with the Real of Eddie Irvine. His teammate Volker Weidler is next up. Then it's Christian Fittipaldi ahead of Pierluigi Martini, JJ Leto and Roberto Guerrero. And then Gabriele Tarquini is next up ahead of Fangio II and Giacomelli, who have both had pit stops. Here's Irvine. Eddie Irvine trying to make his bid up the inside line into the 130. Oh, that's brave, but he's made it stick. He's kept his foot in, and now both the Japanese drivers are in the pits. Suzuki, Herbert, Katayama and Zanardi are all in together, I can tell you. So that has promoted Boutsen up into second for the moment, and Andretti up into third for the moment. So some interesting challenges for the drivers in this race, as Volker Weidler has also chosen this moment to come into the pits. And Michael Andretti is due into the pits in the Reynard, so is Boutsen in the Porsche. Blundell in the Lego Osella should be going a little bit further into the race by the looks of things. So a bit of a frustration for Thierry Boutsen, who knows that his title attack in Formula 1 is over and done with now. He was one of 12 drivers who could have become world champion at the Spanish Grand Prix, but he was one of the 4 drivers who fell out of contention last time. The other 3 were Mauricio Gugelmin, Alessandro Nannini and Alain Prost. So there are still 8 drivers that can be world champion, depending on what the results do here in Suzuka. As we ride on board with Michael Andretti in the Reynard. He is due to come into the pits as Guerrero has a look at JJ Leto, and that doesn't work out. So Andretti comes into the pits. Boutsen is into the pits as well in the Porsche. But now that Boutsen has been released, he has been given an opportunity to stretch clear of Andretti, so it's looking good for Porsche. The big question is, where's he going to get out in relation to Katayama? Because he's the next big threat. So the pit stop for Porsche begins in earnest, and obviously it's going to be an interesting run for the team as out onto the circuit goes Boutsen, but he's got to wait for the faster pitting Reynard. Oh dear, oh dear. So Andretti has actually beaten his rival out of the pit lane. Boutsen's got to do all that hard work all over again, and Katayama's gone through as well to rub salt into the wound, and Zanardi's got past Boutsen as well. Frustration at Porsche. But Martin Brundle in the Minardi comes into the pits. So that drops him down the order. Goodness me, Brundle taking a wide line. Again, a couple of wheels on the grass there, by the look of it. So Mark Blundell just keeping himself out in the lead of the race. 15 seconds clear of Damon Hill's Dallara, with Paul Warwick in the second Porsche, now running in third place. He's going to be the Williams test driver this weekend, so it made it next year, sorry. So it made a lot of sense for Boutsen and Warwick to team up and talk tactics for 1991 in these last 2 races of the year. So Blundell leading the Grand Prix in the pre-qualifying session, the Go Bobbert UK Cup. And he completes that 14. We are 2/3 distance into this race. And Mark Blundell is due in pit road this time by. So Warwick in the Porsche coming through. And he's going to continue on another lap. So Damon Hill is in second place. He will come into the pits next lap, I'm sure, which he is. And Paul Warwick likewise. Ratzenberger comes in from P4. McNish is probably going to come in as well. Next time round, actually. So next time he'll come in. So this will all be about Katayama moving his way back into the top 5. And indeed he does. So the race continues. Here's Zanardi, and he's got pressure from Thierry Boutsen in the Porsche. The Porsche is alongside him. Can Thierry Boutsen get through? Upper place. Onto the inside line. Lovely job from Thierry Boutsen. He's not going to hang around. And he gets himself back into 8th position. But they've still got 4 cars in front of them that are yet... 5 cars in front of them that are yet to make a pit stop. So Boutsen is going to catch up to Andretti, and he's going to need to get back into 3rd position all over again. So we're on lap 15, and this is a good run from Damon Hill in the Dallara, but of course he has to make a pit stop, so he should rejoin in about 10th position, I would say, just directly in front of his teammate, Johnny Herbert. Here's Mark Blundell in the Lego Acela, and he is going to be coming into the pits this time. You can see he pulls across. So Mark Blundell into the pits, and he should have a decent advantage over Katayama when he comes out again. But that doesn't stop the Japanese crowd on the main straight cheering, because Blundell is in the pits. And there could be a chance for Ukyo Katayama in the Coloni to move up into the lead of the race. So here's the opportunity. 8.6 seconds. It's a good stop, though. Hill is also in the pits, as is Warwick, as is McNish. So down the main straight, where is Mark Blundell going to filter out in relation to Ukyo Katayama? That is the big question. And Blundell is going to get in and out with his lead still intact. As Giacomelli in 22nd place is lapped. Katayama is now 2nd, and Andretti is being caught by Thierry Boutsen. We're on board with Boutsen. The Apple Computers colours on the nose cone there, looking very swish indeed on the Porsche. With Zanardi in 5th, Suzuki in 6th, ahead of Hill, Herbert, Warwick, and I think it's going to be Leto, who is promoted to 10th place, which is where he was before the pit stops. Here's Ratzenberger making his bid, and he gets through. So Ratzenberger into 10th place, gets the move there on JJ Leto as we quickly switch to Christian Fittipaldi having a moment in the 130R. But Mark Blundell in the Lego Acela leads in Japan here at Suzuka. So this could be a great opportunity for him to qualify for the Japanese Grand Prix. But he's had these moments already. Mark Blundell has done a very good job in 1990. He hasn't had the results to show for it, but he certainly has put in a great talent show. And Benetton have snapped him up for next season, where he will race with Porsche engines. So there is Roberto Guerrero running in front of Martin Brundle, and behind JJ Leto. A very good end to the season for AGS. They've got much better, and this gives them hopes for next year when they will be the Holden Racing Team, an all-Australian Grand Prix team. The first time we've had one since Brabham was originally Australian. They are now, of course, British run. So it's going to be fascinating to see an all-Australian team on the grid again as Johnny Herbert makes a bid for his teammate Damon Hill and absolutely storms on the inside line. No problem at all there. So Johnny Herbert gets into P7 past Damon Hill as the two Dallara teammates continue to squabble, and Damon Hill coming around the outside to try another go. But they're having a wonderful race. Here's Mark Blundell. He leads comfortably here at Suzuka in Japan. And this is a Go Bobbert UK Cup qualifier. The first 3 teams past the post will progress through to the Grand Prix. And they only need 1 car to cross the line. So usually it's the top 3 drivers that get through to the Grand Prix along with their teammates. But there have been times when we've had a 1-2-2. And Boutsen is going to try on Andretti. And Andretti's in trouble. Andretti with a gearbox failure. Oh, Michael Andretti. The Reynard is out. And that, I'm afraid to say, as he breaks his wheel against the barrier trying to pull off, Michael Andretti and the Reynard team are not going to get through to the Japanese Grand Prix, which is brilliant news for Porsche, because now they have got a car up into the Grand Prix so far, because Boutsen is in 3rd place trying to close in on the Japanese driver, Ukyo Katayama. There's the other Porsche, Paul Warwick, chasing after Herbert and Hill in the Dalaras. So some good duels going on at the moment. But the battle continues, and it's still a resurgent Dallara team trying to get themselves into the top 5. Or at least stay as close to the likes of Zanardi and Suzuki as possible in case something happens to them. Mark Blundell sets the fastest lap of the race in his bid to continue his dominant force out front. Damon Hill tries again on Johnny Herbert side by side, and Hill's back in front. So Damon Hill retakes Johnny Herbert. There are some good overtaking moves then here at Suzuka. It's not the easiest circuit to overtake on, but they have had some good moves in the Go Bobby.UK Cup qualifier, and certainly the slipstream gives you such an advantage here at Suzuka. You make such big gains. This is Martini. Look at how much of an advantage it makes being in the slipstream for Martini. He gains so much in terms of speed just being in the draft. Here's Ukyo Katayama in the Coloni. And the Japanese fans are absolutely elated at this. Every time Katayama comes through in second place, they know that their Japanese star is likely to start the Japanese Grand Prix. But for Aguri Suzuki, it's a bit of a problem because at the moment the Japanese driver is only in 5th position. So it is a tough opportunity for him as far as he's concerned, as Boutsen comes through in 3rd place in the Porsche. That car is getting stronger every weekend. It's a shame really they're not going to run as a works team next year, but they will team up with Williams, where surely this brilliant story is going to continue. They will also supply engines to Benetton next year as Mark Blundell gets another new fastest lap in. Here comes Paul Warwick, making his bid to pass Johnny Herbert in the Dallara. I don't think he's going to make that one stick. He backs out of it. Oh, Paul Warwick. Oh dear, he's had a shunt and lost the rear wheel by the look of it. Let's have another look at it. As Paul Warwick, so determined in the 130R to make the overtaking move. Just watch as he desperately tries to commit to the move. Drifts wide. Bang. Oh dear. Well, that's one Porsche out of the race, and that's unfortunate for Paul Warwick. But the other one is still in 3rd. So as long as Thierry Boutsen can complete the remaining 9 laps of this Go Bobby.UK Cup pre-qualifier, then Porsche will still go through to the Grand Prix. And of course, so will Paul Warwick, because it's the whole team that gets through, not just one driver. Oh, side by side between Donnelly and Wiedler, and Donnelly gets through in the Eurobrunn. A nice overtaking move there from the Ulsterman. So Mark Blundell continues to lead. He's now 10 seconds clear of Ukyo Katayama. And with 18 laps completed, now we're at 2/3 distance. I was incorrect the first time round. We were at half distance when I pointed out on lap 15 that we had completed 14 laps. That was the half distance point. Now we are at 2/3 distance, 18 laps done and 9 to go. Or really, I should say 8.5 to go, because Blundell is approaching the 130R. Here's Fangio, the second. Juan Manuel Fangio, the nephew of the 5 times world champion. And it's really good to see him continue his progress. He's not going to be in a Grand Prix race seat next year, as far as I'm aware. I think he's going to be on the sidelines for 1991, but he says that if that is going to be the case, he will still continue to look for options, but if there are none, then he will pursue the world of the IMSA Sports Car Championship out in America. Oh, and that's Roberto Guerrero, just about getting round the outside of JJ Leto's Monteverdi. So the other Monteverdi blows up as well. Both cars with engine failure here at Suzuka. Now, hopefully, Leto is not going to have as big a moment as Bernard. But certainly, it's a very nasty moment indeed for Leto, and he really needs to pull off the circuit himself as well there. So Leto with a smoking car. He has Wiedler passing him. Sorry, that's Eddie Irvine passing him. Oh, and goodness me, the car is now ablaze for JJ Leto. So the Monteverdi team really need to know how to look in their mirrors. Maybe their mirrors aren't working very well in that car, because Leto is still driving around with his car on fire. And he's got Martin Donnelly coming up behind him. So JJ Leto obviously having problems as Martin Donnelly tries his best to come around the outside of the Monteverdi, which finally comes to a stop. And JJ Leto and the Monteverdi team will not progress through to the Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka then. That's a real shame, but I'm afraid that is the right call as far as JJ Leto is concerned, pulling off there and finding a marshal's post so that he knows that he can obviously get that car put out. And the marshal is there on the scene quickly. The fire is out, and Leto is out of the Go Bobbit at UK pre-qualifying race. So, the race continues on. It's Thierry Boutsen with 7 laps to go, who is looking good to put the Porsche team into the Grand Prix. So even though he's been dropped by the Williams team for a Porsche program for the last 2 races of the year, he still has a grand opportunity here to race in Formula 1 regardless and keep his old opportunities alive. Here's Roberto Guerrero having a great race in the AGS with Martin Brundle's Minardi. So Guerrero is having a thrilling Grand Prix. Great to see the Colombian doing such a good job. And hopefully it's going to turn into a points finish this time, because he's had a few of those opportunities taken away from him. Brundle is 10th, McNish is 11th. From Irvine, Donnelly, Wiedler, Tarquini, and then we have 4 others. That's Fittipaldi, Martini, Fangio II, and Giacomelli. And Mark Blundell with just a little over 6 laps to go, as Tarquini has a little bit of a downshift issue there at the first hairpin here at Suzuka. That's the last time you'll see an AGS looking like an AGS in Japan, as the car will be completely rebranded for 1990. And you're going to see them in their new Holden guise next time out as they celebrate the merger on home soil at the Australian Grand Prix at Adelaide. So the Grand Prix continues, and it is going to be Mark Blundell who leads as the field continues round. There's Giacomelli, the Italian, who is pretty much coming to an end of his Grand Prix career now. He's going to be a test driver next season while focusing on the world of sports cars. But Giacomelli has had his moment in Formula 1, it seems, and the Italian is pretty much calling time on his career. We've already seen his countryman Piercarlo Ghinzani, another driver with a lot of experience in the sport. He walked away from the scene earlier this year and decided for the final few races of the year, after bowing out on his home race, the Italian Grand Prix, he decided to give young German star Volker Wiedler his chance in a Grand Prix car by moving aside. He gave Paolo Barilla, the Italian, a chance, having stepped aside. It was the Real driver that has stepped away from the car. So there is Mark Blundell, having a jolly good time of it at the moment. Who was the driver that decided to give Volker Wiedler a go in the car? It was, of course, Willie T. Ribbs, the American. Oh, and Nukio Katayama making a mistake there. So this could be a chance for Thierry Boutsen if he gets close enough. He's not quite there yet, though, Thierry Boutsen. So the Porsche still hustling the Coloni, but he has dropped a little way back. But the Ferrari engine in that Coloni obviously giving Nukio Katayama plenty of oomph. But Thierry Boutsen in the Porsche is still running strong in 3rd position as they run round the final corner. And there's Martin Brundle, still trying to hustle off Eddie Irvine, who is giving it everything he's got. They want to try and get as many points in the Go Bobbit at UK Cup as possible, and so Brundle is trying to break himself back into the top 10 ahead of Alan McNish, who is proving himself to be quite a talented youngster here at Suzuka. And Eddie Irvine, who's got plenty of experience around this place, is trying to move his way further forward as well. There is Pierluigi Martini, still trying to find some magic as Irvine has got past Brundle, I'm told. And of course Eddie Irvine is going to be driving for the Jordan team in 1991. Here's Martini making his bid on the inside of Fittipaldi, and Martini is not able to get the move done. So 5 laps to go then for the British driver Mark Blundell in the Lego Osella. But can he hold it together? That's the big question. We said this in Jerez, and it didn't come to anything in the end, unfortunately, for the British driver. Here's Thierry Boutsen, having a solid race in the Porsche, and really enjoying life in this car, with no pressure, no real obstacles. And he's back at the front of a Grand Prix, although technically speaking, of course, it is the Go Bobbit at UK Cup car. But after Spain, he wanted to regroup, he wanted to refresh, and the Williams team said, look, we need to bring Schumacher into the car as part of a contractual ongoing agreement we've got with Ferrari for next season through the Ferrari brand. They've obviously bought Schumacher's contract for next year. We want to give him some Grand Prix time and strengthen our chances in the Constructors' Championship. You go and do some things with Porsche. It doesn't matter what way you dress it up. they've basically decided to drop the man who won them 2 Grand Prix over the first part of the season. So it's a vote of no confidence for Thierry Boutsen on the eve of the 1991 season. So Boutsen must be quite grateful that they've got a change of management for next year, because of course Boutsen has been signed up by Scott Woodward, who is the new team manager for Williams. They've decided to retain his contract, as opposed to Riccardo Patrese, who is going to Ligier, but he of course is the championship leader currently at the moment. So Ligier may be about to bag a world champion, but there is a 9 points levy at the moment in the Drivers' Championship. We'll have to see what happens. So let's see. Here's Ukyo Katayama closing up on Giacomelli to lap him, as Katayama continues to run in second place. Here's Blundell lapping Fangio II's Eurobrun, with 3.5 laps to go for the British driver up in front. Second is Katayama. Third is Boutsen, who has caught up to within a second now of the Coloni. So this could be very entertaining for Thierry Boutsen. Here he is, as the Porsche closes up on the Coloni of Ukyo Katayama. The Japanese driver still hoping to hang on here to be able to start his home Grand Prix. If anything were to happen to Ukyo Katayama, interestingly, it will be the Lola team with Aguri Suzuki, the other Japanese driver, that will benefit. So a fascinating scenario, as the Coloni is trying to find as much straight line speed as humanly possible down the straight, but the Porsche does seem to have the stronger engine over the Ferrari. Now that is interesting heading to next year. Of course, it's not the Works Ferrari engine, but certainly the Works Porsche engine seems stronger than a customer Ferrari engine, which definitely strengthens the Porsche team's for next year. And as Eddie Irvine's gone off. A big off for Eddie Irvine in the 130R. Did he try to make an over-ambitious move on Guerrero in the AGS? Let's have a look. So Irvine's there on the inside. A carbon copy of what happened to Paul Warwick. The difference being that Eddie Irvine has spun right across the circuit there. And I'm afraid, I was going to say that's going to put him out of the race, but he's just love-tapped the barrier. Well, now he's had another incident with the barrier. And now, there's another spin behind. That's Martini. That's Martini going off. And now they've nudged each other. So Irvine gets going. Martini manages to get the car facing the right way again eventually. But that's the man who leads the Go Bobbit at UK Cup. Oh, and that's Johnny Herbert. Johnny Herbert is pulling off in the Dallara. What a shame. And they have just come away from the Spanish Grand Prix, of course, at Jerez, where both cars were thrown out of the Go Bobbit at UK Cup race after they were found to have illegal fuel in the car. I'm not sure whether it was tampered with or whatever, but certainly the Dallara team already racing under a cloud in Spain, and now here they are in Japan, and Herbert is out of the race. So Irvine spins, so does Martini. But in the Go Bobbit at UK Cup, Martini is not going to score. And with Ukyo Katayama finishing second, that's going to give us a Go Bobbit at UK Cup showdown heading into the Australian Grand Prix. So it's all on Katayama now to get the job done. Giacomelli is down in third. Leto is down. Giacomelli is a lap down, I should say. Leto is out of the race. So is Bernard. And Brundle is not even in the points. So it's all down to Katayama to take the Go Bobbit at UK Cup away from Pierluigi Martini. But here comes Thierry Boutsen with 2 laps to go. And Porsche couldn't care squat about Ukyo Katayama's Go Bobbit at UK Cup title chances. They just want to get into the Japanese Grand Prix. But so does Katayama. Giacomelli's going to have to get out of the way. The Italian, I believe, does so, but holds up Boutsen temporarily. So, I wasn't too malicious from Giacomelli. His car was just in a very difficult position on the circuit at the wrong time there. But out in front, 18.5 seconds clear. Blundell is disappearing into the distance as Giacomelli tries to have a bit of a look back at Boutsen. Well, that was never going to work, was it? So with Katayama looking at 12 points, that's going to bring down the gap in the Drivers' Championship from what is currently 20 points down to just a mere 8. So Martini's chances of wrapping up the Go Bobbit at UK Cup have taken a massive hammer blow here in Japan, and it's the Japanese driver Ukyo Katayama that's putting up the biggest title fight. So can the Japanese driver, who is a race winner, won a race of course back in Brazil. He didn't even start every race this year. He only missed the first race in Phoenix. Apparently it was due to a visa crisis that he missed the first race. but Ukyo Katayama has finished every single race that he has started this year, and on only one of those occasions, it was out of the points. So Katayama is looking very good to snatch the Go Bobbit UK Cup out from underneath Pierluigi Martini. But here's Boutsen, still trying to put the Porsche into second place on the last lap here of the Go Bobbit UK Cup pre-qualifier. A thrilling race and a terrific battle here at Suzuka. Katayama trying to hang on to second place. He doesn't want to lose too many points here to Boutsen, because Boutsen's not in the Go Bobbit UK Cup title race, but Katayama definitely is. And if he holds on to second, then we've got a showdown in Adelaide in both championships. So Katayama hanging on to it, but out in front, Mark Blundell is finally going to get the victory he deserves. Having tried so many times this year, he will manage to get the job done as he comes out of the final turn. At last, Mark Blundell wins the Go Bobbit UK Cup qualifier here at Suzuka, and he is absolutely delighted with it. He finally gives Lego Osella their first win of 1990 as Boutsen backs off the challenge. Katayama is going to get second. We've got a showdown in Adelaide. And Boutsen comes home in third. So it's going to be Lego Osella, Coloni and Porsche that get into the Japanese Grand Prix. And that is a wonderful result for the Japanese, for Porsche, and for Mark Blundell and Lego Osella. At last, they are race winners. Well, that is a fabulous result right at the end of the season. They've been trying all season long, Osella, to get the victory. Zanardi has tried and failed. Blundell has tried and failed many times. But now, at last, they get the result they deserve. And Zanardi gets fourth position. That's his highest result of the season as well. So the Lego Osella team finally hang on for decent points. Both cars come home. So it's absolutely justified and deserved. Good run from Roberto Guerrero today as well, behind another great drive from Alan McNish. A very tough race here at Suzuka. But it's Mark Blundell from Ukyo Katayama. The fans have gone bananas with Katayama in second place. And of course now just 8 points away from the championship lead in the Go Bobbit UK Cup. What a result. Mark Blundell wins for Lego Osella. Ukyo Katayama second for Coloni. Third is Thierry Boutsen ahead of Alessandro Zanardi, Aguri Suzuki, Damon Hill, and then Roland Ratzenberger in seventh from Alan McNish, Roberto Guerrero and Martin Donnelly in the Eurobrunn. Then Martin Brundle and Volker Wiedler, Gabriele Tarquini and Christian Fittipaldi, Eddie Irvine and Pierluigi Martini. And then a lap down, we had Juan Fancia the second in the Eurobrunn and Bruno Giacomelli in the Lola. Johnny Herbert in the Dallara is next up. He retired but is classified as a finisher. JJ Leto with engine failure. Paul Warwick crashed out of the race, but he'll still start the Japanese Grand Prix. Michael Andretti with gearbox failure. The two Zach Speeds were out, one with an oil leak, one with an engine failure. Gasher with a big accident, and that's an interesting one as to whether he'll start the race. Eric Bernard has an engine failure, and therefore he will not start the Grand Prix either. Fastest lap of the race? Well, it's Mark Blundell. He's done an absolutely terrific job. The Porsches have been very quick indeed here in Japan, and they certainly deserve to be after an absolutely thrilling run. But Osella, Porsche and Coloni will get through to the Japanese Grand Prix. That's the headline, and the Japanese Grand Prix is coming up next.